people think about moving to Oregon, they think about lower prices, great quality of life, and maybe getting a little more bang for your buck when it comes to purchasing a home. But that is not always the case.
We are helping people relocate from all over the country. And one of the things that people think is that when they move here, they're going to get a really good deal and that their dollar is going to stretch them far. And unfortunately, when they see the areas that they want to possibly move to, they're surprised at what they can't get for their money.
So in this video, we're going to dive into 5 suburbs that might be overrated. And then we're going to show you some nearby options where your dollar is going to stretch a lot further.
We're Ann and Erica. We're in the top 1% of the area for real estate brokers. We have over 95 star reviews, and we are here to help you if you're thinking about making a move to Portland.
All right, suburb number 1 to avoid, Lake Oswego. Now this is an area that gets a lot of attention. We talk about it all the time. There's upscale living, lakefront living, there's great schools, fantastic walkable downtown areas, but is it really worth it?
So why are buyers so drawn to Lake Oswego? Well, it's pretty obvious. We've done other videos about why you should move to Lake Oswego. I mean, there's walkability in the downtown area. It has a real sense of community throughout. They've got lake living, they've got prestigious schools. It's really one of those places that kind of has it all, but is it for everybody?
Well, you know, when you start looking at the prices in Lake Oswego, you know, that's really where the rubber meets the road, and it gets a little bit difficult. So if you know, pull numbers right now in our MLS system, you're going to see that for about 2,500 square feet average, you're gonna pay a little over $900,000. And you may be thinking, oh, that's a beautiful, like, that's not too bad. But that's not gonna be a perfectly updated home. And I think that, you know, we always get the question, well, can I get into Lake Oswego for $900,000? You certainly can.
Yep.
But is it gonna be what you want? And that's generally what we find is that when you really start diving into, you know, how much and what is the quality of those square feet, it's not what people want. And then that's when you start going into what we really find the average, you know, to be, which is about $1.5 to $2 million to get the type of home that people really want in Lake Oswego. So that's where, you know, it becomes a little bit difficult. Is it really worth it for you?
You know, and one of the things to be aware of is that, you know, Lake Oswego technically is a resale only city, meaning there's no land to develop, there's no big subdivisions, there's no major new construction happening. The only new construction that's actually happening in Lake Oswego is one-offs where they're tearing down an older home, remodeling. There just isn't anywhere to go. So it's pretty much landlocked. And that's where the value for these houses goes up and up, is because people are taking these homes and they're adding on, remodeling, rebuilding, and there's just no other houses to build to. So what we have is what you get. And so that's why primo prices are going to always be in the Lake Oswego area, because we just don't have any more places to build.
One-offs, the scrapes that do happen in Lake Oswego, they go for a premium.
Yes.
You know, because obviously there's an added cost into that. I mean, the developer may pay close to $1 million for that piece of land, which means they're going to build a big home and get as much value out of that property as they possibly can. So most of our new construction is, you know, multi-million. We're talking 2 to 3 million,
and they can
minimally.
get it.
And they can. They put beautiful finishes in it. That's well done. But when you're really truly looking at it, like, you could buy that same house in a different area and probably pay a lot less for it.
So are you buying prestige and a brand, or are you really getting value out of the house that you're going to buy? And that's where we tend to find those conversations with you when you call us, that the housing price that you're looking for, you can probably look at a few others, and we're going to introduce you to West Linn.
Fantastic area.
The suburb we recommend if Lake Oswego is not a good value option for you is West Linn, Oregon. Now, West Linn is a sister city next to Lake Oswego. Sometimes you don't know from driving to one city or the next if you're in Lake Oswego or West Linn. It is also known for a lot of great things, and you get a lot more for your money. But let's start with where we're at now. We're standing in a park in West Linn called Willamette Park. The great thing about West Linn is it has a lot of parks. They call it the city of rivers, trees, and hills. And right now we're sitting in a park that backs up to the Willamette River and merges with the Tualatin. It's an expansive park down here where they do a lot of sports and kids activities. They've got playgrounds. You can walk along the rivers. It's just really a nice park, and it's just one of many that West Linn has to offer. We talk about in our other video about Lake Oswego some of the park systems that they have, but here in West Linn you're also getting that. So you've got that nature feel to it. What else do they have, Erica?
Yeah, so West Linn is also known for its great school system. Much like Lake Oswego, which everybody is usually going, you know, desiring that location for, West Linn has fantastic schools. It ranks 6th for school districts out of, the entire state. It has 14 schools serving, students from kindergarten through high school, and really just kind of knocks it out of the park when it comes to school. So if you're worried about, you're like, I want to be in Lake Oswego because I want, my kids to be able to go to public school versus private, well, this is a great option. And what's cool is that when it comes to home prices here, you're gonna get a lot more bang for your buck. Now, initially, I'm gonna say that the average price with what's currently listed is just over $1 million. And you're like, well, Erica, that's higher than Lake Oswego. However, you're getting an average of 4,500 square feet. You're getting almost double the home in West Linn that you're getting in Lake Oswego. So you can have your family, everybody can have space to do their studying and, and be happy about it and still get a great education.
Yeah, you're not compromising when you come to West Linn. In fact, like Erica said, in many cases, the neighborhoods are vast for what you get for the money versus Lake Oswego. You might be limited to one or two, and you have a lot more housing options to choose from, a lot, more conditional, better homes or square footage, that sort of thing.
We generally find if people are looking at both options that they will see maybe 1 or 2 in Lake Oswego that will fit for them, and then they're going to see maybe 4, 5, or 6 in West Linn that will suit their needs just fine and usually have better finishes and more of what they're looking for.
The other thing that's really great about West Linn is it's a suburban community similar to Lake Oswego. There's a lot of people that come into this area, families, retirees, and they're looking for that sense of they know each other, and there is a lot of variety in, the different types of neighborhoods and so forth. In fact, we had somebody recently that we just closed escrow on. Tell us a little bit about that, Erica.
Yeah, so this was a couple that was relocating to be closer to family, and they were looking at both options. They were looking at Lake Oswego and West Linn. And the crazy part was they had, I think, 2 options in Lake Oswego, both very outdated, gonna need a lot of love and attention to kind of bring up to more modern day standards. And they found a wonderful option in West Linn, but they had lots of options when it came to West Linn for what they were looking for. In fact, there were 2 top contenders, and they ended up, choosing one and closing escrow on it. And we're really happy, and they love the sense of community here, and it's just, you're maybe 10 minutes south of Lake Oswego on the Highway 43, so really great option for them, and they were super excited.
Yeah, when you look at a map, West Linn sits at the base of 205. You've got Highway 43, which is easy to get into downtown. You're probably 15 to 25 minutes, depending on the day and time, to get to downtown Portland or even get to downtown Lake Oswego. And you can get on the freeway pretty fast from a lot of different areas of West Linn. So ideally, location, you're not really compromising that much as far as location. All right, the other area or suburb, if you will, to avoid is the Stafford Triangle. Now, interestingly enough, this one is a little bit unusual because it's not technically a suburb. It is an extension of certain suburbs, and let me break it down for you. So the Stafford Triangle, which we've done a video about before, kind of encumbrances a few different cities because it's an acreage area. So primarily it's West Linn, Wilsonville, a little bit of Tualatin, and a tiny little bit of Lake Oswego. A lot of people like this area because it is acreage. It is out of the way. You don't have to see your neighbors. You can get anywhere from 1, 5, 10, 20 acres of land. And I liken it to, we've heard this a lot in our industry, where it's kind of like the martini farmers. They're not buying those properties to have a bunch of agriculture and plant a bunch of things. They're really buying it because they want space, they want prestige, they want that area that's got the address of Stafford, and there's some other real benefits to living in that area, right?
Yeah, so I think as well, again, you've got good school districts. The Wilsonville West Linn School District is highly ranked and, sought after. So for people seeking a lifestyle of a little bit more space where their kids can maybe practice sports and they can, get outside and run around, this is a fantastic option because you're still very close to all of your amenities. You've got Target, you've got Costco, you've got, any sort of shopping that you want to do, and you're close to highway to, access work or anything like that. So I think, when you combine the great school districts with location, it really is an area that speaks to people who need a little bit more elbow room versus being right in a neighborhood.
And Erica and I had a listing out there about a year ago, and we did a few open houses, and the one thing that was really hold true is that a lot of people that came through really wanted that area because of the community. They heard about the sports, the schools. They had friends or family that lived in the area, and they really wanted to get acreage. You know, there's always this view that people want land and they want quiet, but they don't want to pass up the location. And Stafford kind of gives you the best of all worlds because, like Erica said, you're 9 minutes from a Costco, a Starbucks, Target, all these amenities that people really want without having to be in a suburb living too close to their neighbors.
Now, the problem with that is that comes at a price tag.
Yes.
So, you know, we always talk about location, and this really does have location and all the things included. That being said, it comes at, you know, you're looking at multi-millions to get anything in there. You know, and sometimes they're really big houses. There's not a lot of options when it comes to the Stafford area, so these things will usually go for top dollar, sometimes with multiple offers, and everybody's asking a premium for what they've got. So you have to think that, you know, if that's where you want to be, you're going to pay to be there.
All right, Erica, what's the alternative if people find that they can't get a lot of bang for their buck in the Stafford Triangle?
Yeah, so just across the river, you have Oregon City, and Oregon City offers so much. Better pricing, obviously, but it is still a strong community. It's got great schools as well, and you're gonna be able to find those small farms that really, there is new construction options available where we've got some local builders who come in and are building either small communities or one-off small acreage options for people. So you can get a nice one-level or, you know, multi-level 3-car garage on an acre or so for, you know, average of about 1.5. And that is a really big difference from the multi-million to, you know, 1 to 1.5 that you're gonna find in the Stafford area.
Yeah, and even if you're looking for like a hobby farm, you can even look under 1.5. I mean, Oregon City has kind of a bounty of different options for acreage properties, everything from like the smaller ranch home with shops, outbuildings, things like that, up to the beautiful, you know, mansions or gated communities. There's a few really beautiful gated communities in the Oregon City area, like Beaver Lake Estates that we've, you know, done a video on that, you know, really offer something you can't find anywhere near. And the prices in Beaver Lake Estates really are so affordable when you look at what you get for the money.
Oh, huge homes. You know, that's really the thing about Oregon City is that there's acreage for everybody, not just the elite. I mean, you can get some options even in the $600,000 range all the way up to, you know, and we're talking potentially big acreage if you want to.
Yep.
So that's why we always find that Oregon City is such a great option. And you're not far, you know, you're maybe 10, 15 minutes into this downtown city area, which is great. It's got lots of options when it comes to shopping and restaurants and a cute little downtown area. And you're still super close to the Willamette area of West Linn. You're super close to getting into Lake Oswego. Really easy to get to 205 and get into Portland if you want. So the location is still really hard to beat, and you've got all the amenities, but a much better price tag.
All right, suburb number 3 to avoid is a 55 or older community. So we're gonna jump into 55 or older because we do get a lot of retirees or people calling us who want to look at that as an option. And you might have heard on the west side of town, 2 areas that are suburbs really close to each other, which is King City and Summerfield. And those are kind of located in the 97224, which even though it has a King City or it's a Tigard address essentially. But you're gonna find that there is a lot to like about those areas, but they're obviously the price, which we'll talk about, kind of hinders people from maybe jumping into those locations.
So the great thing about the King City and Summerfield area is the location is excellent. I mean, you're close into the city, you're close into hospitals and everything that you would potentially want in a 55 or older community. They've got great HOAs, very strong.
Well maintained and managed.
Yes, and both have golf courses, which is super exciting. A lot of retirees love to play golf. If not, it's always nice to look at. I've found that even not being 55 or older. I loved living on the golf course. People can walk to their Trader Joe's, their Target, Marshalls, whatever they want to do. But we tend to find that the prices on these properties are starting to outprice people.
Yeah, that's for sure. So what you can expect in the Summerfield area, for example, as we just helped a client purchase in there, is that she was looking in the 450 to 500 range, which is a healthy range, especially if you're on like a fixed income or trying to, you know, really retire. And she realized that those houses needed a ton of updates.
Yeah.
That they were still set back in the 1960s and 70s when they were built. Now, you might get a newer roof or furnace or some of the systems, but overall, like the bathrooms and the kitchens and the surfaces needed to be updated, which in her book was like another $50,000 to $100,000 that she didn't have to put towards it. She did end up buying a condo, which she got a great remodel condo at $375. But you know, a lot of people who are trying to stay under that $500 or $400 amount really find it a challenge to find something that is move-in ready or you know, cosmetically updated to their needs. And even in King City, which is a little less expensive than Summerfield, it also a lot of people find that those homes also need some renovations cosmetically or otherwise in order to really make them feel improved at the values that they're paying. So, you know, yes, location's good. Like Erica said, you're right in the heart of the suburbs, technically in Tigard area. You're close to amenities, close to shopping, all the things. But we have an alternative city that we're going to recommend.
Fantastic alternative, which is Woodburn. Probably about, what, 20 minutes south on I-5 to get to Woodburn from the Tigard area. People always feel like Woodburn's so far out there, but it's really not. And it's a great community. It's growing. There's a ton of new construction outside of 55 and older, but there's the Woodburn Senior Estates down in Woodburn. And we have loved sending people to this location because for people who are on a fixed income or just maybe have a limited budget, you can go into this community. And not only is the HOA very reasonable, I think it's about $65 a month as we're shooting this video. So the homes are going to be in the like 300,000 plus or minus range. Not updated, you know, you might be a little bit towards the bottom of that range, and then updated, you're getting maybe a little over into the mid threes, but very, very reasonable. And they're great. They're all one level homes. You can, you know, most of them are updated or, you know, easily to updated options. They've got garages, and it's a very flat, walkable area. Also has a golf course. And while it does bridge both sides of the main road that goes through Woodburn, they've got an underpass, which is absolutely awesome, so that you can golf both sides of the golf course and not ever have to go to a main road.
We often find people have to suspend their disbelief in this city, because oftentimes when we propose Woodburn, the first reaction is like, whoa, where is that? Or that's really far down the highway, isn't it? And while, you know, you look at a map, it's not technically in Portland Metro, it is in Marion County. Just going down the freeway, usually you find that it's a quick jump up to the Portland area, more so than if you were to be further across town in Portland getting to the other side. So traffic-wise, it's usually not that bad. But what you get for your money is so much more.
Wild.
We have helped a lot of people discover it. You know, we oftentimes tell them, keep an open mind. We've had a lot of clients move there ridiculously happy. One client in particular who actually is like kind of have them talk to me about the community and the area if they want to know more. Also, in addition to the Woodburn Senior Estates, which is a 55 older community, there's another community in Woodburn that we sometimes recommend to people when they have a little bit more of a budget, but they're trying to get a little bit more for their budget, and they're near or on a golf course, and it's Tukwila. Tukwila is a beautiful community. I love the construction in that. It was done in the early 2000s. The homes are elegant. They offer a lot. The community's solid. It's on a golf course, the OGA golf course.
And while it's not 55 or older, there is a lot of main level living options in that community, but you will have a lot of 2-level homes as well.
Yeah, so it's primarily the average age group in there is well above 55 or older. And we usually recommend that if people have a budget within the $500 or $600 range, that area gives them a ton for their money. A lot of newer type style homes.
I had a client several years ago who they were wanting to be in Charbonneau, another not technically 55 or older community.
But acts like it.
But acts like it, you know, and they were feeling that they were priced out of that community, and they went down to Tukwila. And it was absolutely found what they wanted. Beautiful home, ready to go. It was a really good builder that had built the home, and they're on the golf course, like right on it, and it's perfect, you know. But that's what happens is that we find that, you know, in these communities that are closer in, and Summerfield was the same thing. They were priced out of that option, because in Summerfield, you know, you're probably looking at close to $600,000 to get a detached home, and that's not necessarily an updated detached home. You know, a lot of these still need a lot of love, and you're still probably, you know, mid to low fours to mid fives to get an attached, like a duplex style or townhome style. Yes, they're one level, but it's still a lot of money. So, you know, when you can go down to Woodburn and get a 1-level detached home, they've got really nice sized lots for the size of the home. So you can have a little garden space, and you're, you know, less than $400,000. It's wild. it's such a good bargain.
Yeah. All right. The suburban area to avoid, number 4, is Southwest Portland. Now, Southwest Portland is in Multnomah County, and that's something we point out to a lot of people because the property taxes, or just the taxes in general, tend to be a lot higher than what people expect, and a lot of people actually move out of Multnomah County into counties like Washington or Clackamas to avoid the tax situation in Multnomah County. But there are reasons people do like Southwest Portland, so we'll kind of talk a little bit about that. Number 1 is the location. Where is Southwest Portland? Southwest Portland is literally probably only 10 to 15 minutes at best to downtown Portland. You're up in usually the hills. People love the location because you can drop down into the South Waterfront, the downtown. You can go up towards OHSU, really in the heart of Portland, or heading into the heart of Portland. And oftentimes we tell people the closer you get to Portland, the more expensive it gets. That's just kind of the general rule of thumb. And a lot of people like the areas like Multnomah Village, which is a walkable community. We've done a video on that. Or they like the feel of Southwest Portland. But there are some things that are not so great about Southwest Portland, right?
Yeah, so, we're built on a hill. I mean, Southwest Portland is definitely in the hills, and it is an older area. There's not a lot of new construction. Anything that is new is generally an infill situation. And so think that you're gonna have a lot of twisty, turny roads. And for the people who wanna be walkable, or at least have areas to go out and do a morning walk, take the dog out, whatever, there are not a lot of sidewalks in these neighborhoods. So you have a lot of parks, or great park system in Southwest Portland. However, think that you're going to be living on roads where there's no sidewalk. So while people definitely go out and they walk and do stuff still, you don't have that protection, and it gets a little bit hairy sometimes, because all of these roads are super twisty, turny, as they try to meander and, make space on a hillside, which is something to think about. And, it's funny you talked about property taxes, and we had a situation earlier last year. I had a buyer looking at 2 different properties, very similar in square footage, and they both had ADUs. One was in Washington County, and the property taxes were right around $10,000. And then one was in Multnomah County, and the property taxes on that were $17,000 a year. And it was a big consideration when our client was looking at which one to purchase, and ultimately, actually, the one in Multnomah County won out. But it was a big point of contention because those property taxes had gone up about $4,000 in the last 5 years. Which is significant for people who are maybe buying towards the top of their budget and, concerned about how those property taxes were going to be affecting them. So, we do find, I was doing another search for some buyers who were coming into town, and, we needed property taxes under $20,000 a year. And there were actually probably 4 or 5 homes in the small search that were not an option because they were, $23,000, $25,000 a year. So that's a real issue in the Southwest Portland area.
The other thing about Southwest Portland is it's very eclectic. So it's not like you go into a neighborhood and a lot of the housing is consistent. You might get a 1940s bungalow next to a 2020 rebuild next to a split level from the 1970s. It can literally be a completely different genre of house and age built in Southwest Portland because it's, we don't have a lot of planned neighborhoods. It's a very older community where it started, and then over time and decades, people have popped in houses or rebuilt or remodeled or sold a lot or whatever, and you get that sense when you're driving along in Southwest Portland. It's like bumpy hills and inconsistent houses, but that's part of why people also like it.
Yeah, and oddly, I will almost say, not to pick on poor Southwest Portland, but you do actually find a little bit more of the occasional derelict house too, I find. Yeah. Homes that have maybe had something happen and they're just kind of run down and they haven't been taken care of, right next to $1 million home.
Yep.
And so, you kind of have to be a little bit forgiving in Southwest Portland of what your neighbor's going to be like, or what your roads are even going to be like. I have been on roads where you potholes that are going to eat your car, and you're paying $20,000 a year in property taxes. So something to be cognizant of. Roads are not great. They are not maintained very well, and they're twisty-turny, and then you're paying a significant amount of money for that.
Yeah, the other thing too about that area is the school system. Now, Portland Metro schools are kind of like one big district school, and Portland, as you might be aware, is very big. And so it's not one little school district that's easily manageable. Depending on where you're looking in Southwest Portland, the school districts can change radically. You can go from Riverdale, which is like the number one school district in the state of Oregon, which is great, but it's not a very big area,
very tiny,
to another school district in Portland Portland that has a lot less numbers to be favorable for students. So it's really important if you're looking at Southwest Portland and school districts are important to you to look at, websites like schooldigger.com or any other websites that kind of help you understand what's happening in the school districts, because Portland school districts are so variable depending on what street, what location of Portland, and Southwest Portland's no different. So check that out if you're going to make a move to the Southwest Portland area. Okay, so instead of the Southwest Portland area suburb to avoid, we recommend to a lot of folks Tigard, Oregon. Yeah, a lot of you guys who don't know the area will say Tigard, but it's actually Tigard, and it is in Washington County, so you're not worried about paying those Multnomah County property taxes. And a lot of people run away from Multnomah County taxes and go to Washington County. And honestly, Tigard, which actually has 2 zip codes, 97223 and 97224, it actually abuts to Southwest Portland. So there are parts of Southwest Portland where you're actually in and considered to be in Washington County, and technically still having the benefit of a Southwest Portland address. And a lot of people really like that because, number one, the school districts. It's the Tigard to Walton school districts, which are excellent. And a lot of people really know that they can get that consistency with the schools. They don't have to worry about being in a Multnomah County school district. Also, you've got lots of parks, lots of amenities. You've got a lot more neighborhoods. I mean, the reality of Tigard is it's neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood that are
true suburban living.
It's true
I mean,
suburban,
you've got a lot of planned communities per se. I mean, we talk about Bull Mountain a lot, which is part of Tigard. And that is very much a planned area. You are going to have very consistent neighborhoods, very consistent housing types. I mean, there are some older areas of Tigard, but it is a lot of newer construction too. And there's a ton of building going on in the area. So little something for everybody, which I find to be great. I mean, some people who don't want a big yard, lots of options. There are some better options in terms of yards, but then you've also got all the shopping options too. You've got every type of shop that you need within your fingertips. Yeah, and we've done videos on Bull Mountain, on River Terrace. There's a cadre of different eras of home, but usually the 90s and the 2000s are pretty consistent for the Tigard area. And there are sidewalks, there are parks, there's a lot to enjoy whether you're retired or you have a family or a young professional. And the price points really range to the 500s, well to over $1 million and everything in between. The average price point in Tigard right now sits right around $775, and that really gets you a healthy house, meaning you're getting about 2,800 square feet, so plenty of room for everybody.
Yeah, so a lot of variety in terms of locations, neighborhoods, etc., but just a little more consistency in Tigard versus the Southwest Portland area.
All right, so suburb number 5 is Bethany. So Bethany is in the northwest Portland. It's about 10 miles west of Portland and north of Highway 26. It is a newer community, I would say within the last 25, 30 years. And so that is a lot of what you get is you get some cookie cutter homes in very tract housing style with a lot of conformity to the building styles. I mean, mostly everything that you're going to see in there is like craftsman-esque builds. Very, you've got a lot of neighborhoods, you've got a lot of sidewalks. There's actually, I don't find a lot of shopping. There's one like little shopping center.
Bethany Village.
Yeah, exactly. Bethany Village. You got a grocery store and a coffee shop and some, a couple of restaurants. But in terms of, it is its own little area that kind of just hangs out there. And now they are building still in that area, in that community, some luxury homes, some pricing that goes up into the, mid-millions. It is known for its school districts.
Yes.
That is the reason that people want to be there. It's got highly rated schools. It is great in proximity to Nike and Intel. And if you need to get into, the Northwest Portland or downtown area, you've got good proximity. Now, the one thing I would say about Bethany is that you have limited access to 26. You've got like 1 or 2 runs that will take you out there. And we're getting to the age of those homes now where a lot of them need updating. They're about, like I said, 25, 30 years old. And some of them have been and some of them haven't been. But it's just not an area that's really, it's kind of closed off, if that makes sense. But people want to be there for the schools. And so I would say the other area to consider would be Southwest Beaverton.
Yeah, and Southwest Beaverton is located in kind of the Murray Hill area, along with the River Terrace, kind of Progress Ridge area. We find a lot of people that are looking in Bethany have that similar feel out in that Southwest Beaverton area, but their price tags are so much more for the money. Meaning we've had clients that come to us saying, ooh, we've heard about Bethany, we know it's really, really good. And they say, okay, price point's around 800, but then they realize really quickly they're just not getting a lot for their money.
No.
And Bethany's such a small, condensed area that the prices just keep going up and up. There's not a lot of places to still build over there, and the ones that are, they're offering a premium. I mean, Erica, you had a buyer that had to spend what?
Well, I mean, they ended up, it was such a hot market at the time that they ended up going up to 1.7 to get this property.
New construction.
You know, it's a nice house.
Toll Brothers.
Great builder. You know, it was a race to get it. And, you know, when you look at what you can get for 1.7 in other places, you really start to reconsider, you know, do you have to be in Bethany?
Right.
And like Ann said, we've had some buyers who have realized that, you know, to get something that's unique and maybe not so, you know, conforming, you are not going to find a lot of great options in the Bethany area. It's a very like production builder type options there.
Yeah, and they can get those prices because people want into that location.
They can. And so, you know, these buyers ended up realizing that they needed to look at other areas. They would love to be in that area, but it just is not going to fit their budget and what they need. And the other thing to be considerate of is that they don't have a lot of one-level homes in that area.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody who needs a one-level, not going to be the right area for you.
Yeah. And, you know, Southwest Beaverton is building a ton of housing. It's one of the areas we've talked about in other videos where it's probably one of the bigger areas being built for new construction. They've got several builders out there that are going to be building for years to come. And there's a lot of options in terms of housing style and pricing and types of options out there. So for people who are like, hey, they're on a budget, maybe, you know, in the 7, 8s, 9s, they get so much more for their money. And the school districts are good out there. They're a little bit eclectic in that that particular quadrant could be Beaverton schools, could be Sherwood, could be Tigard. It's kind of its own little triangle area, but in general, you're just getting a lot for your money, and there's a ton of amenities in that area as well as more to come.
As you've seen, not every popular suburb delivers the value you expect. And that is why it is so important to work with ladies who know the market inside and out.
If you need help, reach out. All of our contact information is listed below. And if you're making the move to Portland and relocating, then keep watching our videos because we put them out every week, and we'll see you on the next one.